Hey guys, so I was asked to weigh in on Trudeau's update from this morning. Um, First of all, the dude really annoys me, as I'm sure many of you know. I can't stand him, and today was no exception. But at the same time, he is one of those people who just his affect whenever he's doing his speeches is just so it comes off as condescending. It doesn't come off as encouraging, and that could be just me, but that's how I feel. He just and why is he still in quarantine? Like seriously, why is he not back at work? Because there is really no reason why at least some of the main key players shouldn't be working out of Parliament right now. They have offices there, so why aren't they there? I mean, it's this big excuse. Well, we have to, make sure that they're not potentially infecting each other and what have you. But I mean, if you're being cautious in other ways, I mean, wear a mask. It just seems like a simple thing. I know they keep trying to tell us that mask wearing is not effective, but guess what? It is, because we've seen that in other countries that have been successful. And I love the way that he talks about best practices of other countries with, his whole idea of 30%, companies who have lost at least 30% of their revenues during this COVID. They're the ones that are going to get the help in the form of the 75% of wage backstop, or subsidy, I guess it would be. But at the same time, okay, if you're taking that as gospel, then how about taking the fact that masks, whenever they're being used by all citizens, is the best prevention of this? And if you want to go back, because there's so many people that keep referring to this as being very similar to the swine flu, which I don't think it is. I don't think the numbers are there. And the way, like for example, in the swine flu, you would start feeling ill and 12 hours later you could be dead. This has got a much longer period before death occurs. It can even be much longer before you get really sick. So, I mean, those are the things that are not like swine flu. It is very contagious. I don't know if it's as contagious as swine flu, Spanish flu, but there are similarities. And I'm not saying that this is just a flu and we can just ignore it and carry on about our business like we would normally with the flu. All I'm saying is that I think there's a certain amount of fear mongering that's going on, and we need to calm that down and start looking at things logically and thinking long term, because this will, like any other um, virus that goes around the world, no matter what it is, this too shall pass. And so we have to think, like, now that we're kind of getting a handle on um, protecting ourselves and all of that, now it's time to start thinking long term and what we need to do. But back to the whole idea of swine flu for a minute, there were two cities in the United States that had like absolute opposite results whenever it came to the swine flu in 1918. One of them was San Francisco, and the other one was Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, they ignored what everybody was saying. They thought it was just the flu, and they carried on regardless. They even had a huge parade to help with war bonds, and the entire city, well, maybe not the entire city, but there were a lot of people that died because of those decisions made. They cottoned on late. I mean, they were perfect, almost an echo of what's happening in Canada right now. So that was a city that suffered huge numbers of deaths because of the swine flu or Spanish flu in 1918. Then you have San Francisco that acted early, and they insisted on people wearing masks. They basically shut down the entire city. There was nothing going on. They were like locked in their houses. There was like essentially martial law on the street. You could be arrested if you were out of your house for non-essential purposes. So you have these two big things, and with San Francisco, they had a very low rate of death and a very low rate of contagion. So those are polar opposites. So if you want to look at the difference between wearing masks in San Francisco in 1918 compared to not wearing masks and having mass gatherings in 1918 in Philadelphia, you'll see if you wear a mask, it's a lot safer than if you don't. And I don't know, well, we all know why our government is saying, oh, don't wear a mask. It's because we don't have enough masks, because early on, Trudeau and friends gave away a bunch of our medical equipment to China. And that brings me to another thing, and that's not part of his speech from this morning, but I keep wondering, and there's possible evidence that this is going to be a problem. So China is sending Canada, because we sent all that stuff to them. Now they're going to send us a bunch of stuff, medical equipment and stuff. And there's some breakdowns on the web that you can look at. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are different numbers that are being thrown around about masks and gloves and that kind of thing that China is going to be sending us. Now my question is, are they sending back the stuff that they didn't need from the stuff that we sent them? It's one possibility. Second possibility, they're sending stuff of inferior quality, which apparently in the Netherlands, that's what happened. China sent them stuff and it was inferior quality, and it wasn't going to work to fight the virus. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true, but that's, word on the street. And three, are they sending us the stuff that they were working on when this outbreak started? And now what's going to happen is they're getting rid of all of that stuff that was in the process of being made, or was sitting ready to ship at the time, or getting ready to ship at the time. And so we could be bringing in a Trojan horse of infected items. That's, I know, paranoia is strong at the minute, especially in people who are naturally questioners. And those are the things I question. Now, they could be perfectly fine. Who knows? Only time will tell. But those are things that I would be concerned about. Even ordering masks online, you can get them from Amazon, but are they going to be safe? Are they going to be worthwhile? It almost seems better just to make masks, which is what they're doing in the Czech Republic. So, although it's not called the Czech Republic anymore, but whatever, you know what I mean. So there is a thing that's going around. It's a little video about, like, a message from the Czech saying, we can make, it was actually a beautiful thing, and it's something that I think Canada has needed for a long time. I don't know if I've talked about this online, but I definitely have talked about it to other people. What we really need is something that brings everybody together, and a leader who brings everybody together on a common purpose is a strong leader. And that's what we have been needing here in Canada for a long time, and we just haven't had it. There's just too much division, and nobody's bringing us together. Nobody's giving a vision of something that we need to accomplish so that we can all be working towards that. And that's really frustrating. And that's like a whole nother video that I'll get to at some point. Now, let me see here. I have notes because, I was asked to do this. So let me see here. Yeah, so the long-term costs of all of this. Somebody asked that question twice. A journalist did. And it seemed like Justin Trudeau has no clue, which, big surprise. But it seems to me that a government that continues to say, well, they don't continue to say it anymore, but they said quite frequently that the budget will balance itself. They really concern me whenever they don't know the costs of things. I mean, those are numbers that should be right off of his head right away. Whenever he's talking about these things, he knows that this is going to be brought up. He has to. How could he not? It's so frustrating. Let me see. Then, oh yeah, and the carbon tax is going to continue. Like, it's staying, and I believe April 1st it's doubling. So we're trying to do all of these things to help people, but we're still going to carbon tax the crap out of you. Great. And on April 1st, thank you, Brian Lilly, for actually, getting these questions in. April 1st is also a time whenever there's a pay rise for parliamentarians, and they haven't even discussed putting a hold on that. So we're going to wind up having our legislators getting a pay rise April 1st, even though the country is suffering badly financially, and we're going to continue to. And there's people laid off right across the country. There's over 500,000, no, it's more than that now. Probably close to 1 million people who've already applied, maybe even over 1 million now, for EI. So there are hundreds of thousands of people that are laid off right now. um, Probably much bigger numbers than that, because the latest is Air Canada is laying off 15,000 people, and who knows how far this is going to go by the time everything is over and things start to get back to normal again. There's going to be massive layoffs, and to get the engine running again is going to take a lot. And those are things that we should be thinking about even right now as we try to control, like plan for this, the coronavirus and all of the caretaking that needs to be done. We also need to be starting to think long term and start thinking about how do we get the economy going again once this is all over. And there are some things that we really have to talk about whenever it comes to, as far as I'm concerned, nationalization, and in the sense that we need to become self-sufficient. I mean, I'm all about free market economy, but and it's actually not a but. It's a matter of, this is something like right now we have the but. Right now we have something that we really need to take care of. But as soon as this is over, we need to start supporting our resource industries, our manufacturing industries, and we need to start creating our own, like our own, building our own medical supplies, making sure that we have a lot of them ready to go in case something like this should ever happen again. Making sure that we have our own energy sources so that we're not suffering under the pressure of a price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. There are so many things that we could be doing that would make us far more efficient. We also, and self-sufficient really is what I'm talking about here. And our farmers, we need to start encouraging them to start growing all of our basic needs and making sure that that distribution is right across Canada, and we're not bringing in as much stuff, that we are able to really take care of ourselves here and now and in the future, so that those things that are coming in from overseas, those trade things that we're dealing with, those are luxury items. Those are things we can't get here. The rest, all of our basics, to make sure that we can survive no matter what into the future, those need to be made here. And that's something that needs to be addressed. But down the road, like I'm not talking about right now. And I was going to put that in a different video, but too late. It's going to be a long one, I guess. There's just so many things. Another one that always annoys me is the English and French thing. There was a question about TMX that a French reporter brought up, and I actually wound up, I mean, apparently I needed some Ipecac today, so I actually watched this thing twice to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I know. And it was a French reporter that brought up something about the TMX, and it was only addressed in French, even though the biggest province that's affected by that is Alberta, which is primarily English speaking. So that was kind of annoying. But I mean, there's translation, but still, it's annoying whenever he doesn't think to do that. But then, I mean, he forgets about I can't speak. He forgets about Alberta all the time. So like, big surprise. And he was sort of sloughing off another question that came up about whenever this all first started, it was from travelers, and he didn't close down the airports quickly enough. And he's going, oh, we went by the science and the experts. Well, the science and the experts, if you look at other countries, again, I have to bring this up. When you look at what other countries are doing, other countries were getting people to wear masks, and they were shutting down the airports. The ones that were successful, the ones that weren't, were doing stunts and calling people racist if they were, you know, worried about going to a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. Like, that's ridiculous. And I have something to say about that. I really need to get it out there. And that is, this virus doesn't care about your sexuality. It doesn't care about your skin color. It doesn't care about anything. All it cares about is that you are a warm body that it can exploit for its lifespan. That is all that matters. None of this had anything to do with race. And for those who continue to say that it's racist or it stinks of colonialism, Jagmeet Singh, still butthurt about that one. That's me. I can't stand that stuff. It is absolutely ridiculous for someone, like, we're fighting a virus and you're worried about how it looks whenever we say we got to close down our borders. There's something wrong with your head. It's just that simple. And those that are continuing to say that it's racist or it's, all, and all of the all of the theories are just like, can we just put those things aside for 5 minutes and deal with what's actually going on, and get our heads, like level heads, together and start going, okay, so we have this thing. We know it's not going to last forever because viruses don't. They have kind of a lifespan. So we need to start thinking about that. Now, the Spanish flu started in January of 1918, similar to this, and it was done by December. It was actually 2 years total, apparently. I've heard different dates. I heard the worst of it was started in March and ended by November of 1918. And then today I was reading that it started in January of 1918 and it didn't finish until December of 1920. So, it could go on that long. This COVID thing, I don't know. But, and nobody does. You can try to predict, but that's all you'll be doing is predicting. If we continue to self-isolate, if we continue to, make sure that we keep everything clean, if we start wearing masks, make them, do whatever you got to do, start wearing your mask whenever you go out, we might be able to, and like for people over 70, and I would say as early as 65, because those are whenever the numbers start going up for severe consequences. And it's not that young people aren't affected. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there are older people that need to, and those at risk, that need to be taken special care of. And they should be quarantined for their own sake, for their own health and safety. And that's something that we all have to address. And we have to find ways of making sure that we're staying in touch with those people who we care about that are in that age group. But there's so much more that we could be doing if we were taking the right precautions, if we learned from history, and if we learned from other countries that have been successful in fighting this thing. But it just seems like the Trudeau government just doesn't want to learn these things. And it started off with, almost all of the cases were travel related, and now 63%, is that what the number I have? Yes, 63% of cases are community transfer. So we have completely missed the boat with this. And I love the thing about, like in the chat with the masks for all, which is a little hashtag, and there's a video and everything where they're trying to tell people, like, the way to combat this is to wear masks. And yet our government just seems to be bent on ignoring it. I mean, why not get any people who love to sew? And I mean, there's lots in this country. There's lots of rural people that know how to sew. So why aren't we getting them together and getting them making homemade masks and distributing them? Get them the material they need, get them sewing their pants off. They're at home anyway, right? So let's, make that something that we can really get behind. And I implore anybody who knows how to sew that's actually watching this video, please sew a mask and give it to a friend. Like, wear some yourself and give some to an elderly neighbor, a friend, whatever you have to do. But try to get those things out there to people. If you can, do it. Apparently there's videos that you can watch that will show you exactly what to do and how to do it. So, if you can, I implore you, and share this to people so that, there are people out there that are making masks and helping out their own community. It's something we can do instead of feeling powerless in this situation. It's something that we can do. We can help in that way. So I think this has gone on for far too long already. Basically, bottom line, Trudeau sucks. His government sucks. They should have done more. They should have done it faster. And we're all going to suffer the consequences because we have a useless government. And right now we need to really start coming together as people, as fellow Canadians, or, fellow whoever, like wherever you are. If you're Polish watching this, fellow Poles. If you're American, fellow Americans, wherever you're from. You need to band together and start doing whatever you can so that, one, you don't feel powerless in this whole situation, and two, you're thinking about the future and doing what you can to help your neighbors, to help yourself and your family. This is unprecedented times, at least in our memory, and it's something that we really have to come together and work on together. Let's figure this out. I mean, there are ways and things that we can do to make this a better outcome in the end. In the meantime and in between time, stay safe, take care of yourselves and one another, and I'll see you in the next one.